Hello, you're listening to Environmental Soup through the facilities of Trent Radio. I have a YouTube channel called Environmental Soup and a Substack, Environmental Soup Archives. Today I will talk about piping plovers, a government registry notice decision that was disappointing, and I will talk about sandhill cranes. First, I will focus on the piping plovers and why there was a decision that's unpopular. I found an article in the Norwell newspaper called Ontario will settle Wasaga Beach despite 98% disapproval in public comments. This is by Fatima Said on January 27th, 2026. The article says 60% of Wasaga Beach from the province. There will be a transfer of management of 60% of Wasaga Beach from the province to the town, despite receiving feedback from thousands of Ontarians decrying the proposal as potentially endangering sensitive piping plover habitat and affecting beach access. I looked up the status of piping plovers, and in the Ontario Regulation 230/08 Species at Risk and Ontario List, which is under the Endangered Species Act 2007, which the government is in the process of repealing. And piping plovers are listed as being an endangered species. There was 14,233 comments over 30 days, and 98% of them were in opposition. And the government didn't make any changes based on that opposition. And I have the registry notice, so we'll look at that shortly. And there was a requirement to post on the environmental registry, but the government has also exempted several projects from having notices under Bill 5. There was a proposal to transfer 60 hectares of, or 3% of Wasaga Beach Provincial Park. And this is the world's largest freshwater beach and surrounding natural areas to the town's management, town of Wasaga. And 60% of the beachfront, which contains all the sand dunes and vegetation that serve as nesting areas for piping plover, will be transferred to Wasaga Beach. There was a lot of people highlighting the consequences of losing this beach habitat, and people saying that it would be irreversible degradation of the environment. And then there was previous criticism of the government not honoring comments or just ignoring comments. One example was regarding the Greenbelt. There was 30,000 comments and no changes were made to the proposal as a result of consultations. And the government has previously weakened species protections through Bill 5. So that was the article. And I have, that's the environmental registry today. I might move that down. There is the proposal decision. I previously talked about this in a video called A Park Type Swap and Eco Environmental Protections for Wasaga Beach. I posted that on July 3rd, 2025. So if you wanted additional information about this proposal, you can look there. But what I'm looking at today is the comments. There was 4,081 comments through the registry and over 10,000 comments by email and 2 by mail. 2% of comments supported the proposal, 98% opposed the proposal. And then there was a summary of the what people thought. In that summary, there was still a recognition of environmental management of public and continued public access. So even within that 2%. And then opponents said, pointing out environmental impacts, legal and governance issues, and public access, perceived equity, and social economic concerns. And then those different groups as well. They did not consider, but despite the overwhelming opposition, they did not consider changes to the proposal based on feedback received. They said that Wasaga Beach have commitments to keeping the beach public and not building on the beach and protecting environmental sensitive dunes. They have demonstrated that this is not the case by previously violating endangered species legislation, which the government has weakened under Bill 5. This is one of the letters. This one is from Ontario Nature. They say that there was a diverse and active ecosystem that has been stewarded by Ontario parks and locals since 1959. The provincial park is home to freshwater dunes held together by moram grass, and they're saying that the ecosystem is rare and it's globally impaired. They're saying that the nesting sites would still need to be protected under the new Species Conservation Act, and that the town of Wasaga Beach lacks the capacity or expertise to maintain these sensitive habitat features to protect species at risk. The environmental registry provides no details on what the town's objectives are with the land or rationale on why it's necessary to enhance tourism in Wasaga Beach, and that they say that there's no calculations of the total area being transferred and how much of the park area this is proposed to represent. So next, I have another letter, and this is from Boards Canada. They're saying that it's one of the most significant habitats for piping plover, which is an endangered species. And they have 57 nests since 2007, and half of the province's fledglings in this period. So if this beach is developed, the piping plovers would be lost. And it's susceptible to disturbance by human activity. Piping plovers are especially susceptible. And then I have background on the piping plover habitat. Wasaga Beach violating a provincial law. So I have it from a previous video. So there's an article from Environmental Defense. Appeals Court upholds town's convictions for damaging piping plover habitat. As town of South Bruce Peninsula damaged piping plover habitat at Sable Beach on the shores of Lake Huron, and they were convicted in 2019. There was mechanical raking and bulldozing to the sand and dunes, and I saw that there was sand on the beach, and the piping plovers are listed on the Endangered Species Act, and then they were gone for 30 years. There's habitat losses continuing to threaten species survival and recovery. And then the town didn't apply for any exemptions to the act. Then there was also another article I'm just waiting for it to load. This article is from the novel by Fatma Said called Plovers and Friends, Sable Beach Town's 100,000 fine for bulldozing bird habitat stands. And this talks about the court case as well. So you get the point with this video. It is disappointing that the government does not listen to feedback, and this sets a dangerous precedent. I will look at the items on the environmental registry that people can comment on if they are so inclined. I'm just going to get that. So I'll go to the open for comment, policies, regulations, and acts, and I'll put in a bulletin, but bulletins are not open for comment. those 5 items. A renewed invasive species strategic plan. This has the number 025-1334. And you can comment on this until February 23rd. And I'm just, this broadcast on January 30th. Advancing critical transmission expansion in the Toronto area. This has the number 026-0019. You can comment on this until February 21st, 2026. Oh, and the previous one, I made a video about that one last week. I believe I made it last week. New regulations to focus municipal environmental assessment requirements. This has a number 019-7891. You can comment on this until February 3rd. Exempting low-risk activities from requiring environmental permissions. This has a number 025-1361. And you can comment on this until February 3rd. And streamlining environmental permissions for mineral exploration. This has number 025-1363. And you can comment on this until February 3rd. And yes, this is what I have for this section. So I will make a new video for the sandhill cranes topic. But if you're watching online, if you're listening through the facilities of Trent Radio, then I'll continue on talking.